Hello, Blunt Truth with the Benchmade Nitrous Stryker. This is the full-size version. There's also a mini Nitrous Stryker. I'm not sure how big that is, but it's smaller. The full-size version here has a just under 3.5 inch cutting edge. So a nice big blade, 3 millimeters thick, D2 steel, very hard, very good edge retention. Haven't had any problem with edge retention. I do have a few problems with the knife that I had to work around. I did have to do a little bit of my Dremel machining to it and my little fix of some problems. I know I should change my name from Blunt Truth to It Sucks But I Fixed It or something like that, because I do that so much with my knives. But I had to do a little dremeling and changing things. But anyways, this knife has, I think you agree, a coolness factor in looks that goes through the roof. I mean, it looks like something that should be shot out of a crossbow or a gun or something, you know. Awesome looking knife. Very strong blade, because it's got this, it runs this, you know, obviously swedged out, but they have thickness all the way up, so it's a really strong tip. Maintains this strip of thickness right up to here. So nice, strong, really strong D2 blade. Obviously, it's got that tactical look. I don't like thinking of my knives as tactical. A lot of people overuse that word. They love the word tactical, but you know, I guess those guys would call this tactical. It's got G10 scales, full liners. It's an assist knife with torsion bars, plural bars, which is unusual. It's got a torsion bar on both sides. Both scales are cut out with torsion bars, and they're connected with a roller. I'm doing a separate macro vid of it because I think it's worthy of a separate vid to show you different angles of it. But it's got a roller, and you'll see it better in the macro vid, that connects the two, and it rolls along the tang, and when the tang reaches a certain point, there's no tension all the way out to here. The spring doesn't do anything. It doesn't even hold the blade in, which is kind of a problem I'm going to get to. But right about here, the spring catches, and the two springs are very strong. Snaps it right to there. Now there's no spring again, all the way up to here. So it smacks it out, basically, right there all the way out, and it works really well. It's very strong. Opens with authority, just as good as any, or better than 90% of the assist knives I have. Better than all the SOGs. I like torsion bars, they usually work better. And the advantage of it not having spring like the SOG, as soon as you go to disengage, push the liner lock out of the way and pull the blade down, now you're under spring tension. So if you're doing it with one hand, you got to kind of get your thumb up here and pull it down against the spring. But with this, you can pull it all the way to there with no spring and just easily grab it with your thumb and close it. So it makes one-handed closing very easy. So that's nice. The other thing I like about it a lot is this big handle with all this gripping. These lines are very purposeful, because when you grab it, and the lock is set in so that it doesn't interfere. I like that. This is fairly, you know, smooth. They jimped it out a little bit, but it's inside the G10 layer, so you know, the cutout, so you don't really feel it there. And you got a really big, wide grip. The grip is so wide it just about envelops the whole blade when it's closed, which is unusual. The only thing sticking up is the swedge part. But you get a really good grip, and where these are is where your fingers, where these grooves are is where your fingers rest. So it keeps you from sliding. I mean, even with like 2 fingers, you can really hold this thing good. Just these grooves give you a really good grip on the handle, real easily, without even trying hard. You get a really good grip on the knife. It feels secure. Big grip, you know, I mean, long grip all the way down. One problem I have with it, well, let's finish talking about the specs before I go into problems, It weighs 3 3/4 ounces, which is getting up there for EDC, which is one reason I don't EDC it anymore. It's a little wide for my pocket, a little bulky in the pocket, and a tiny bit heavy, and the blade is a little bit hard to sharpen, and when the D2 gets dull, it tends to get duller and duller and duller. You know, it lasts a long time, but I find that with S30V, it'll lose that razor edge and then stay pretty functionally sharp for a long time, where D2 just keeps progressively getting duller until it's not usable. But it keeps that razor edge probably longer than S30V. But anyway, one problem I had when I got it, right off I noticed that when it's in the open position, all you got in the right where the pressure point is for the webbing of your thumb and finger is these thin little pieces of G10. And I knew that would be a problem right away, and it was. But I solved it. Not by doing anything to the G10, obviously, but by sharpening and reprofiling the edge. The edge it came with was pretty dull. I could just barely shave with it. It was very obtuse. It was probably 21, 22 degrees. I mean, they might say 20 in the website. I don't know. Maybe my knife was a screw up, but I brought it way down to something like 14 or 15 degrees. You can probably see that edge angle. I changed it drastically and made it a much better cutter. And by doing that, it cuts so well now that this isn't a problem in the webbing, because it just cuts in so well. I don't need a lot of force. You'll see that in the demo part 2. It cuts very well. Another problem I had was the pocket clip really sucked. This is the pocket clip it came with. I had to change it out. I had to. It's pointed. They put a friggin' point right there. That's a problem in 2 ways. One way is when you put it on your pocket, if your pocket folds a little, it snags it. A point, I mean, it snags it, and you're not going on your pocket. It won't go on. Another problem was when I grabbed the knife to use it hard, this is set up tip up, but on this knife it's tipped down. So I'd grab it like this, and that point is the only pocket clip ever to cut me, to rub off skin. Didn't draw blood, but it basically would have if I went a little longer, because that point just dug right in when I was using this thing hard and hurt like hell. And there's no way really around that, so I had to change it. Luckily, my griptilian here has the same setup, the 3-hole screws. So I just swapped it out with my griptilian, and this is a really nice pocket clip. The griptilian came with Benchmade. So I like that, you know. But this is the one it came with. I put this on it for the macro shot so you can see it. Another thing I like about it is the lock engages all the way over on the tang, past the 50% point, and it still releases pretty easy. So it seems like a really solid lock, and even though it's an assist knife, solid lockup, because the spring isn't even touching the tang when it's open all the way. There's no involvement. All it does is whack the blade out. So it's just the same as a non-assist knife. Lock up solid. And another thing that I had on it that I didn't like is, this is where the dremeling came in. I had to grind off this side of the thumb stud, which would only be for lefties, because it came over intruding in the gap here when you slide onto your pocket. It was always snagging on my pocket, so I had to grind that off. And even though there's a little ball bearing and hole in the blade for blade retention into the handle, they don't line up for some reason. They didn't make it so it lines up. You can see the liner doesn't come over at all when I push the blade in. It doesn't, the detent doesn't line up with the little ball bearing. So the blade doesn't retain in at all, except for just the friction of the springs pushing on the tang. So that's it. I had to change the pocket clip, grind down the thumb stud. I like the jimping. It's a little rounded bumps you'll see in the macro. I like that. It works. There's a little bit of a ramp and little jimping inside here. And that works well. I like that. It's comfortable to use. It's a nice knife. I really like it. I've replaced it with ones I like better, but it's not, I don't. Now that I've fixed the things wrong with it, I don't really have any problems with it. It's after I fixed it, no complaints. It works nice. It's a nice knife. So watch part 2. This is $95. I know I forget to say the price in all my reviews, but it was about $95 online, plus or minus $5. So watch part 2. We'll do some cutting with it, and I'm doing a separate macro vid so you can see it up close. Okay? Thank you.